Welcome to You Make the Difference. I'm Wanda Walker, and today I'm talking to Norma Tucker. Norma is with the First Steps program here in LaGrange, and she also serves on the LaGrange City Council. I know you're going to enjoy hearing from Norma today. Welcome to the show, Norma.
Thank you, Wanda. I'm honored to be here.
Let's start off talking about the First Steps program. Tell me what that is and who the program serves.
Great. I'm very excited to be a part of the First Steps program. It's part of the West Georgia Health family. I've served as the First Steps coordinator for the past 3 years, a little more than 3 years. And we serve families who give birth at West Georgia Health. Our program is a part-time program, so we don't get to see every family, but we try to see parents, especially first-time parents. We share information and offer support to them, just trying to connect them to the resources that are available in the community.
So if somebody goes in and they give birth, they can expect that you will show up?
Yes, myself, and we also have volunteers who may occasionally visit with the families there as well.
Yes. Well, Norma, tell me, how many of the mothers that give birth are unwed?
Ooh, well, we have, over the past few years, a range of between 60 and 62% of the births being to single moms.
Yes.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that the father is not involved. It just means that their status is single at the time of the birth.
Yes, and so you were sharing with me the statistics about teen mothers. Tell me that.
Yeah, teen pregnancy has been a concern in the community, but by the grace of God, a lot of support in our community, a lot of efforts have caused those rates to go down. Currently, the rate is it goes between 11% of the births being at West Georgia Health being to teen moms.
Yes.
11 to 14%.
11 to 14, yes, and that is a reduction, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that I was thinking about as preparing for this interview is that several years ago there was a speaker who came and spoke at the United Way, and one of the things that she said was that if someone was unwed and had children and did not complete their education, that equaled poverty.
Yes, that's been a common statement. The fastest way, teen pregnancy, the fastest way to poverty.
Yes.
That's the way it's been described. A lot of times in the community, if we've got the resources, like LaGrange, Troup County, we're very fortunate. Even in the most unfortunate situations, we have a caring community that tries to support families in need, and particularly teen moms and young moms. We've got First Steps, of course. We've got other community partners that work with these groups, these families, and support. Circle of Care. We've got Troop Bell, Success by Six. We've got so many of the sororities and local organizations, like we've got the Links organizations, the Continentals, Junior Service League, groups that are providing funds. Some of these groups over the years have come and gone, but they've always been about trying to empower our community, especially the women in our community.
Yes. Now, I haven't heard about the Links program. Tell me what that is.
The Links group, it's a group of local women, a lot of educators and retired educators, and just women who are concerned about encouraging our kids to invest in reading, sharing books, sharing a love of reading, because we know that reading is key to every aspect of life. Whether it's math, which most people, unless you're in it, most people don't care for math. I might be misspeaking, because a lot of people do love math. I'll speak for myself.
Okay.
Math has been a challenge for me, but I know that reading is a very valuable piece in math as well.
Yes.
You know, math, English, science, you've got to be able to read to understand what's being asked of you. So.
Yes, and I heard Chief Detmar say something that I just wanted to share since we were talking about poverty. He said that, you know, if couples would get their education, get married before they have children, wait to have children until they're 21, that pretty much gives you a ticket out of poverty. And so, you know, I just felt like that sometimes people who are in poverty might not have the formula to come out of poverty. But, you know, we also know that being married, a two-income household, really does a lot for coming out of poverty, doesn't it?
One of the things that, you know, I looked at over my life as a single mom, you know, I was 100 years old when I became a single mom. That's what I tell people. And at that point in my life, I had a lot of work experience. I had a military career.
Education.
I had education, a couple of degrees. And I was very fortunate to have a very supportive family. And even though I became a single mom, I had support there.
Yes.
So truly, truly grace to have that support system in place.
Yes, and you can rise above those circumstances, but it's a lot easier if you wait. Yeah, and so it makes it a lot more difficult, doesn't it?
Yes,
yeah.
It does. And again, I said, and this has got to be a book or at least a poem for me, but it was about being the missing parent. Because you hear so often this thing about the fathers, the absent dads. But I dare say that when the father is missing from that relationship or the marriage or the parenting process, we as women, as mothers, we can't be our full selves. So we, in a sense, are missing.
Yes.
Because if we had that male, that father figure there for our children, we wouldn't have to be so exhausted from trying to discipline our children alone. I don't know where it is in the Word, but I'm sure it's there, as the father being the head of the household and being the disciplinary figure. That if the father were there to discipline my son Jacob, then I would have been able to be a more loving, nurturing mother to Jacob. And as I said, I was very fortunate in raising Jacob to have a great support system. So I'm thankful. Yes, there would be things that I would have gone back and changed, but the outcome, no way.
Yes.
I'm thankful. I'm a proud mom.
Yes.
So.
Now, I want to ask you, what made you decide to run for the city council?
Wow. That's really great. A great question. One of the things, probably from the time I was 15 or 16, I was always involved in the community. Most of my time was spent around older people in our community. One in particular was Miss Eleanor Cox. I grew up on Colquitt Street. I lived all over LaGrange and, as a young person, but most of my teen years were right there on Colquitt Street, right across from Caffey there. And Miss Eleanor Cox worked there, and she was always a proper lady. And she, to a certain extent, took me in, and I worked with a lot of the groups that were doing things in the community. I felt that people my age, the teenagers, you know, they only knew the same thing that I knew. So I wanted to be with people who could teach me things.
Yes.
And so I hung out with a lot of the adults in the community. We had a co-op, what they called a co-op, where they would bring in the fresh fruits and vegetables, and you know, there was an exchange of those items, much like the commodities program now. But back then, everybody seemed to work together. And so I had an opportunity to learn from several masters. Mr. English, when Mr. English first ran and was elected to County Commission back in '78, we were there. Representative Epps, when he was starting to get involved in local politics, we were there. So I got a chance to learn from quite a few experts. And to be able to grow up, come back home, and work with these men and women that I've watched all of my life. That was truly a blessing for me.
Yeah, so you were interested in politics from a young age.
Yes.
And so...
I didn't answer your question, did I?
So what sparked you? Well, that was good information. But yeah, what sparked you to run?
Well, as I said, from that early age, I was involved in campaigns. Even after I left and went into the military, I lived in other communities, I worked other campaigns. Well, after I came back home, I was volunteering with different groups, and I was crying out to God one night. It's like, okay, God, I can't find a decent date, you know, can't find that $1 million paying job, or any of those things that we claim as the route to success. And I said, when I wake up in the morning, God, you're going to tell me where I'm going to take my child and where my family is going to be, because LaGrange just isn't it. Well, about 5 minutes after I got to work that morning, my phone rang, and it was Gwen Redwine.
Huh.
She's calling me, and she says, Daddy want to know, do you want to run for city council?
Wow.
And she said, because Mr. Cox at the time, who was serving on council, had decided that he was not going to seek re-election. And so she said they were searching to find someone who was interested, and they thought about me. And, you know, and I cried. I said, Gwen, I said, this has to be God.
Yes.
Because you have come to me with something that's near and dear to my heart. And even at that point, I didn't decide that I wanted to run for sure, but I said, I'll think about it. And so over the next few months, I thought about it, and I prayed. And just as we're sitting here talking, the voice of God said to me, if ever you're going to do it, now is the time.
Wow.
And subsequently, Mr. Cox did decide to seek another term, but as I said, by the grace of God, we were able to be elected, and now I'm serving my 3rd term, and it's been wonderful, and I'm so proud and so honored to represent this community, and I feel that at this point, it's time for me to pass the torch, if you will, to encourage other women to get involved and seek office. I'm in the middle of my 3rd term now,
yes,
and it's truly been a blessing. The city, I don't think I've ever asked for an opportunity to attend training or to travel to a convention or a conference where I've been turned down for the opportunity. And so because of the city that we serve in, I've been given other opportunities across the state. So I'm really excited and honored.
Yes, and I want you to talk about an opportunity that you had with the Women's Empowerment Project.
Yes.
Tell me about that and what
Wow.
happened with that.
Again, it's the collaboration of community and local government and state government, if you will, federal even, because that grant that provided us the opportunity to be a part of the Women Empowerment Project was from the U.S. State Department. It was all about empowering women from different communities around the world. One of them happened to be Kenya,
yes,
in Eastern Africa, and you know, I was in a training at UGA as a part of the Georgia Municipal Association Leadership Academy. And one of the speakers, a young woman who's, I believe she's the director, at that time she was director of international affairs there, and she came in and spoke to our group that night. And of the 6 women in the class, she said, I'd like to encourage you all to get involved in this Women Empowerment Project. And she started naming off all the countries that I would love to visit.
yes,
And so I said, yeah, I'm going to get that information. And she left her card there. And so after the event, I picked up her card, and a few months later, I sent an email asking about the project. And that's when I found out that the women, they had a delegation of about 14 women planning to travel from Kenya to Georgia early in that year. And so I was like, yeah, I want to be a part of it. So they asked if I would share my experience in local government with the women of Kenya, and I thought, yeah, that would be a great opportunity. But as I thought about it and we prepared for their arrival, I thought, this isn't something I can keep to myself. I've got to share with other women. So we sent out invitation to a lot of women in local government and in the community and leadership roles. And the day that those women arrived, they were excited because we had the LaGrange police met them at the interstate and escorted them into downtown. And it was the day of our meeting, so they got a chance to sit in on our morning work session and see a bit of how things work here. And then we had lunch with the women from the community. And talk about a beautiful day.
Yes.
And experience.
Tell me about that lunch, because I know it was very special.
It was extra special that day. We had, at the time, then Mayor Lucan was there with us. The council members stopped in because it was for women.
Yes.
But they came over from the meeting just to greet all the women. And they shared some honorary items with me, shared sisterhood there. And just seeing all the beautiful women together, fellowshipping.
In their native dress,
yes,
right?
Yes, the women of
Downtown
Kenya.
LaGrange.
Oh my God.
Yes.
When they arrived at City Hall dressed in their native wear, oh my God, it was beautiful seeing them out in front of City Hall. Cars were coming by blowing.
Yes.
People were coming over just trying to see what was going on and where they were from and who it was. And so it was a very special day.
And as a result of that, LaGrange did such a great job
Yes.
on welcoming the women
Yes.
and providing for them while they were here. You got an invitation to go to Kenya, right?
Yes, I did. Paige Estes, I don't know how many months Paige had been on board at that time, but Paige took it over and welcomed us into the Chamber of Commerce
Yes.
for the lunch. And she and her staff had a beautiful setup for our luncheon. And after the visit, the delegation had to do a survey, and we got a call about a week later saying that LaGrange had received the highest marks for the treatment that they had received and just for the fun that they had, because they got a chance to travel to Whitesville Road Elementary School and sing to the kids. But it was just an exciting day for everybody. So they asked me if I would like to travel with the Georgia delegation to Kenya. And, you know, I said yes,
yes.
without hesitation, yes. And then as soon as I hung up the phone, before I hung up the phone, they said, you'll be receiving the official invitation in the next couple of weeks. But as soon as I hung up the phone, I thought, how am I going to afford to travel to
yes.
Africa? You know, it's been a lifelong dream. But on the journey, the total expense for me was $25.
Wow.
And that was just to pay for my visa.
Yes.
We were traveling that July, and it's been 5 years ago, and we were traveling in July and August. And at that time, I guess it's the high tourist season, so rather than pay the regular $50 visa, it was down to $25 for us. And the State Department, the grant that the Women Empowerment Project was operating under, had the opportunity to cover all of our expenses. And it was a memory of a lifetime, to
yes.
say the least. We got a chance to meet people who were wealthy. We visited some wealthy homes, and then we visited some villages, some traditional villages. And I say wealthy homes, speaking financially on one end, and then I say villages, traditional villages, but the people in those traditional villages had a different kind of wealth.
Yes.
They had a joy, a love of life, and they had the opportunity or the skills to do so many things that we take for granted
right.
or we couldn't do if we were asked to do.
So I know you brought some things that you want to share. So I want you to be sure and have enough time to share these.
I know.
So tell
I'm a
me
talker.
about these. Tell me about these.
The Reto, the organization that hosted us when we traveled to Kenya, is Reto. And I thought it stood for something. I thought it was an acronym for something. And they said, no, it's just about women empowerment. And
yes.
So as a part of the sisterhood, this is a necklace that we wore. They presented to us, I believe it was the last night that we were there, we had a banquet
yes.
with the sisters.
And did you have on a long dress?
Well, we were able to wear, it was more formal, but we did not wear long dresses. We were just dressed in our traditional wear.
All right.
And they placed these
that
on
would be
each
pretty
of
on
us.
one of their long dresses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they all had theirs on, and of course with all their jewelry, the neckwear, and just everything. It's a beautiful country, beautiful opportunity. The people, beautiful. We did get to visit the Masai Mara. We visited we took a safari.
Oh, wow.
And got a chance to see the animals out there, to see elephants, to see giraffe, to see hippopotamus,
yes.
you know, and all these things that we're used to seeing caged in at the zoo, to see them roaming freely on such a beautiful earth.
Yes.
You know, it was an experience of a lifetime.
And these were some scarves you were given?
This piece here was what they wrapped me in when they visited here.
Oh, wow.
And welcomed me into sisterhood. And they explained that this was worn by women in power there in Kenya.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So, excuse me. So I thought that was beautiful. And this was given to us as we were leaving, preparing to leave. They gave us a traditional purse. And inside the purse was this wrap.
Yes.
And so that was beautiful. And we had tea, and we had lots of good food, and just a wonderful time. Excuse me.
Yes, and I noticed that you said that it was a heart's desire to go to Africa.
Yes.
And so God is so good to give us our heart's desires, isn't He?
Truly, truly.
Yes. And I know that you were cleaning out one day. I want you to tell this story.
Okay.
You were cleaning out one day and you found this.
Yes. Well, actually, I was doing what I should not be doing.
Uh-huh.
I'm a borderline hoarder, if you will. Or I'll say a keeper of all things good.
Right.
But
that sounds so much better.
I can't remember if it was a flea market or the Goodwill or Salvation Army, but I was in a shop somewhere and picking up things, just going through, and found a box, and the box was an old worn box. And when I opened it, this was inside with patterns, and it's beautiful to me. When I opened it, it's a little more worn, but it's a kit, a holder for knitting needles and crochet hooks.
Oh, yes.
You know, and I've kept it. I thought it was beautiful. I want to get it clean because just the beauty of the art that's on it. It's a work of art to me. But I don't know who the owner of it is, but inside that old worn box, there was a letter written from, excuse me, Mrs. Calloway, and I believe it was dated in the 70s or 80s.
Yes.
But it was the sweetest letter, and it was from a friend of hers who had visited Hills and Dales, and her kids had played with them. Well, I found the rightful owner, or one of the young men that was mentioned in the letter, and I was able to pass that letter on to him from his mom, that was talking about when he was a young boy, he and his brother. And so he was very thankful for me sending the letter, and he's one of the local psychiatrists here.
Yes.
And so I felt good about that. I didn't want to part with this.
Right.
You know, but I've been able to keep this.
He might not want that.
No, he might not want this. And, you know, and the way it was in the box, I'm not sure if it was necessarily a part, but just the beauty of it, it may very well have
This is more a woman's thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
beautiful.
I've been able to keep it and have it for a number of years, but it's just a beautiful piece to me.
Yes, and when he returned, or he gave you a thank you note.
Yes,
Tell me about that.
Thank you, and that was special because the way I came in contact with him, I knew the name, the family name.
Yes.
And we were at a luncheon. I believe it was Rotary hosting a lunch meeting, and as part of my duties with the city council, we were invited to the meeting. I can't remember what the topic was at the time, but I went. And after the meeting, I ran into him in the parking lot.
Yes.
And I told him about the letter, and I sent the letter to him. And after that, he sent me a great thank you. And I haven't seen him quite a bit since then, but I hope and pray that he was thankful, truly thankful and appreciated.
And blessed by that.
Yeah, blessed by that letter.
Now tell me what this badge is.
We're special people.
That's right.
Now, when we first came on, or when I first came on board on council, I believe one of the officers had designed this for council members, and it's the model of the local police badge.
Yes.
And it has the design of the fountain on there and the city crest on there, but it has council member, LaGrange, Georgia.
Yes.
And the police. So I'm proud to have that on display. I've heard some of the council members say they keep it in the car with them, and even have it on a little clip case so that when they open their license, if they get stopped, if they open their license and that shows up, you know, it draws the attention. So, you know, that leads into a whole different conversation. So,
That's right.
But I'm proud of some of the gifts that I've collected over the years. And another item, this was given when we traveled to Craigavon, our sister city in Northern Ireland. And this was a gift that we received. And just last week, we were fortunate to host a gentleman and his wife, Dr. Hunter and his wife Carol from Craigavon. They run what we call CITO. It's, oh my goodness, it's the Craigavon Industrial Development Organization, I believe is what it stands for. But they traveled here just to share some of the experiences, some of the positive things that we need to collect in a partnership with a sister city. So we were very honored to be able to host them here, and they had some positive things and some encouraging words for our community. So look out for some great new opportunities here in the community through this sister city partnership.
Yes, so. And you know, with the sister city partnership, that sometimes really makes lasting relationships. Yes. I know I even had one went through Yumi Okumia that came here with a friend who was part of that delegation when we were sister cities for Japan. Yes. And then so she's been to the United States about 4 times, I think, and came and stayed with me for about 6 months, and it's really a lasting relationship. And this week is her birthday, so I just like to wish Yumi a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Yumi! And that's a powerful name, Yumi.
That's
together,
right.
you know,
That's
bonding.
Right.
You know, that's
Yeah, and she really does bring people together, and she has such an honoring spirit. I learned a lot from her while she was here about how she just honored people in her life, and so. I just want to end the show by asking you, what kind of advice do you have for people who truly want to make a difference in our community?
Wow. The best advice I can give to anyone who wants to make a positive difference in our community is to do it. Get involved. Chances are there's somebody or some organization that's already on the path that you're trying to get on, that same road. So find out, research, do the research, look for the people who are doing the things that you're passionate about, get involved, don't let it sit on the back burner. If it's in your heart and it's a passion of yours, do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Get involved. Yeah. Because the opportunities are there. And if nobody's doing it, hey, be a trailblazer. Go ahead. Move forward on your own.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Norma. I so appreciate you coming on the show, and I'd like to thank everyone who has watched for joining us on the show, and to remind you that everything you do makes a difference.